Hello, Life Groups. Welcome back to our Samson series. If you've been with us over the last couple of weekends, we've seen within the story of Samson that he's been impulsive, he's been self-gratifying, and he is bent on revenge. Now, at the start of Judges 16, where our story picks up today, Samson goes to a place called Gaza where he sees a woman and then wants to spend the night with her. So clearly, he's still impulsive, he's still self-gratifying, and as he's in Gaza, news starts to spread that Samson was in town, and so people began to surround the house and wait for Samson to come out with plans to kill him at dawn. But in the middle of the night, Samson gets up and he takes a hold of the doors of the city gates and all the apparatus surrounding it and holding the doors in. He tears them loose and carries them up to the top of a hill and plants them in the ground. Sometime later, Samson falls in love with a woman named Delilah, which is probably a lot of the story that we are familiar with Samson. And the Philistines, who are still out for revenge against Samson, meet with Delilah and bribe her into finding the source of Samson's strength. And she agrees to do it. And so she goes to work asking him about the source of his strength. This happens 4 different times. The first 3 times, Samson lies about where his strength comes from. The first time he said it was his strength would go away if he was tied with 7 fresh bowstrings. The second time he said that if she used fresh, never used ropes, then his strength would go away. And then the third time, Samson claimed that if you were to weave his hair into a fabric loom, then he would be as weak as any other man. But each time Delilah tried a technique, it didn't work. And so finally Delilah throws this fit and she wears him out with all of the nagging, and Samson just eventually gives in and tells her the true source of his strength. And he says that if my head were to be shaved, all my strength would leave me. And so Delilah tells the Philistines and they pay her off, and Samson falls asleep and she has someone come in and shave his head. And as she had all the other times in the story, she calls out to Samson and says, "The Philistines are upon you." And he wakes up thinking that he's just going to brush this off and shake himself free, but he now realizes that the Lord has left him. He broke his last Nazirite vow, the only vow that made him physically recognizable as set apart. And the Philistines seized him. They gouged out his eyes and took him down to Gaza. So in this story of Samson, we first see that he's impulsive and self-gratifying. Last weekend, he was bent on revenge, and this week, he's blind, both physically and spiritually. And I think sometimes for us, we're oblivious to the enemy's plans, just like Samson was. We decide to do things our own way or do things according to our own strength, and we end up compromising our commitments and compromising our beliefs, and we lose our spiritual eyesight. But luckily for Samson and for us, this isn't the end of the story. And we'll pick that up next week. But in the meantime, enjoy your discussion today.